just your average everyday trucker, keeping it real. I'm your host, Chris Blodgett, and you're listening to Real Talk Tuesday. This week's topic is going to be document everything. This is episode 160. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, appreciate you being here. The inspiration for this week's topic, kind of continuing on with the whole moving company horror stories. But sorry, just had to silence the navigation app or whatever, because I am probably about 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour with traffic or whatever. So about an hour from Kansas City, which I'm kind of surprised because I didn't get out of Kansas City until 3:45 this morning. I got out of the hub at 3-ish, but it was mainly because I had some trailer, some equipment issues. I got there at 1:15, 1:20, and I saw that my load was already ready. I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Maybe I'll get out of here early. And then I started hooking everything up. I got the dolly in front of the rear trailer, and then I got hooked up to the front trailer, and I didn't have any trailer lights. I was like, oh crap! I had flashing lights, but I didn't have any of the running lights. You jiggle the electrical cable, you unplug it, you plug it back in. You try a couple. Sometimes it's a connection issue. Sometimes it'll have the flashing lights will work, but the other ones won't work. Or sometimes you have one side flashing but not the other side. And if you unplug it from the trailer, and then plug it back into the trailer, then sometimes that'll fix the issue. But of course none of that worked. So I was I thought, well, crap. Let me go ahead and I thought, well, I'll hook everything up. I'll get the dolly attached to it. I'll get backed under the rear trailer. I'll hook up the electrical and stuff and see if the dolly and the rear trailer, if they were without lights as well. And funny thing was, I had lights on the dolly and the rear trailer. So I was like, huh. So I kind of thought it was a trailer issue, honestly, because I figured if it didn't have lights on any of them, then maybe I had a blown fuse, on the truck. But since I had lights on the dolly and the second trailer, I was like, huh, all right. So I got back in the truck, planning to call line haul, and of course I literally had a call coming from line haul. It was like 2:05 at that point. We were supposed to dispatch at 2, but a lot of times, you know, I'll dispatch sometimes just after 2. Hell, I've dispatched at 2:15, 2:20 on 1 or 2 nights, and usually they're not calling and checking in on me. But they were calling me tonight, and I guess it was a hot load. I guess I had to get out of there. So he was calling me, and he's like, "Hey, this is so much from line haul, Mr. Blodgett. How you doing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, not too bad." I knew what he was calling about, because, you know, here I'm trying to dispatch, and, you know, it's past 2 o'clock, and all of a sudden they're calling me. But before he could bring it up, I was like, "I have a question." He goes, "Yes, sir. What's up?" I'm like, I was like, "Is there anybody over there in the shop?" I was like, "Because I don't have any trailer lights on my front trailer." He goes, "Oh, crap." I was like, "Yeah, that's why I would have been out of here sooner, but I was trying to see if I could figure it out myself. You know, with the, like, checking the connection and whatever." I said, "But I have dolly lights, and I have lights in the rear trailer, but I don't have front trailer lights." He goes, "Yeah, go ahead and drop that rear trailer and the dolly and go over to the shop and have them take a look at it. It might, you know, just let me let me know when you get in there and stuff." I was, all right. So, like, I went over there, and the guy was already, like, somebody just pulled in there to have a tire replaced just before I got in there. So it was gonna be a minute, because there's like one mechanic that was working, and he was technically, when I got over there, the guy hadn't really pulled in there yet. I walked in there to kind of touch base with him and be like, "Hey, which bay do you want me to back into or to pull through?" But the guy was asleep. The guy was like hunched over a desk, like drooling, the whole works, you know. And you know me, I'm courteous, you know. Like, I'm not gonna just shake him. I'm like, "Hey, dude, obviously, like, I know how it is, man. Like, I work overnight. I'm tired myself. I'm exhausted all the time." And it's like what I mentioned to you guys about the fight my wife and I had, where she calls me a bowl in a china shop. I'm like, "Love, you realize that I am always working the graveyard shift, and, you know, there's a lot of days I might not quite get enough sleep. So, like, I'm tired all the time. That's why I sleep later sometimes, because, you know, it doesn't feel quite so exhausting if I wake up at like midnight to come in at 1:30 versus if I get up at like 10 and then I'm coming in at 1:30 and getting home at like noon. Then I'm a little more tired because I've been awake longer, you know. But so I didn't shake the guy awake. I was like, you know, I was kind of like, "Hey, sir, you know, hello, sir," you know, just trying to, like, you know, gently, like, maybe he'd hear me, and, "Oh, shit, hey, yeah, sir." But before I do it, one of the people from line haul was coming in there. He's like, "Hey, so what's going on, Mr. Blodgett?" I'm like, "Well, like, he's the only one I can find in here, and he's asleep." And he got up, he goes up to him, "Excuse me, sir, hello, sir." And the guy was like, "Oh, yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Are you working today? Are you working tonight?" He's like, "Yes, sir, I am." He goes, "Okay, well, we have a trailer that needs to be looked at. It's kind of a hot load. What bay do you want to back to pull the trailer through?" He's, "Well, you can back into that bay over there." And I was like, "Okay, cool, thanks." You know, feeling kind of bad because the way the line haul guy woke him up. I was like, "Dude, you don't have to, like, you know, hey, come on." So I was like, so, you know, but then before I get back into that bay, somebody pulled through one of the other bays to get a tire replaced, so I still had to wait, you know. And while waiting for him to do that, their line haul guys were like, "Yeah, just call us, let us know when he finally gets you in here, when they start looking at your trailer." I'm like, "All right, I will." "Do you have my number?" And I was like, "Can I call you back at the one you called me from?" He goes, "Yes, sir." I'm like, "All right, cool, yeah, that'll work." So it took a little bit, but then he was checking everything, and everything was working on the trailer when he hooked up his little testing. Had like it was like a testing device or whatever, had a battery attached to it. He plugged that in the trailer, and it was flashing all the different lights. He's like, "Well, everything seems to be working." I'm like, all right. The line haul came walking back out, and like, "Oh, looks like everything's working." I'm like, "No, but he has his thing attached. Let me hook my electrical back up to it." And of course, the lights were still not coming on. So I popped the hood, and I was like, "Well, let me check, see if I have a blown fuse." And I pulled the one from the marker lights, because I'm kind of familiar with that one, because I've had issues with marker lights going out on me in the past. And it being a fuse, you know, one of those little fuses, little 20 amps. And so I popped the little the marker light fuse, and looked at it, and I was like, yep, that one looks like, because it was all black, and I was like, yep, that one's definitely burned out. Well, the thing is, I don't have spare. I mean, I have like a spare fuse on the dash. It's like one of the big ass fuses, but not the little ones. And so I need to get some spare fuses just to keep it here in general, or let my boss know, like, hey, can you throw some spare fuses in the truck whenever you get a chance? Because it's not my truck. I shouldn't have to buy fuses, but So then he, I asked Lionel, hey, can you ask him if he has any of the small 20 amp fuses? And of course he did, so I popped that in, and all the lights came on. I'm like, cool, all right, so it was like 3-ish when that finally got taken care of, and stopped at Pilot because I, waiting for the paycheck to hit, so I have Pilot points. Stopped at Pilot, figuring let me use points to grab some snacks for the road and fill my coffee cup and get a fountain drink. And I go in there, and of course, Pilot had no coffee. They have like 8 things, or like different kinds of coffee technically that they offer, but all of them basically said ready to brew on them, and even their machines that brew the coffee, the ones you can touch screen or whatever, all of them basically cleaning mode. I'm like, well, crap, you guys don't have any coffee going on right now? Well, fuck it. So I was like, oh, okay, So I got a fountain drink, grabbed some snacks, paid with points, figured, well, I have a drink credit on my Love's card anyway. Went over to Love's, got my coffee, paid with it with credit, and then I have like 60,000 points on my McDonald's app or whatever, so I was like, well, did a roundabout way of getting some stuff, did a free quarter pounder with cheese on the app, and then went into their touchscreen little kiosk and logged in with the code and did a free large fry on the app, or on the, redeeming the points. So it's like, funny thing with that was actually, I was expecting, obviously you have to wait for 2 orders because it's 2 separate orders. So the guy calls my name, yeah, number 1625, Christopher. I was like, yeah, hey, I got another order coming out too. He goes, oh, I put them both in the same bag. I'm like, oh, cool, thank you. So I was like, sweet, I burned off some points. Well, legally I've just been letting him accrue, but, so anyway, back to the topic. A little ramble for you guys, a little content, but the inspiration kind of for this week's topic kind of comes from what I've been, with the movie company horror stories, movie company scam, all that crap going on. I figured, hey, let's keep on this trend for a little bit, but especially because if by talking about this, having different episodes, talking about different aspects of this situation, maybe I can spread awareness, and hopefully if you guys hear something that you think is valuable on any of these episodes, feel free to share. Let guide others towards my show. Hey, it's going to help the podcast grow as well. But if I can help even a small number of people not basically experience the same thing I'm going through, then hey, it's worth it. But what I'm basically doing, because as I've told you guys, with all the stuff going on with the broker and with the movers, I'm kind of holding off on doing like a small claims, like try to take them to court quite yet. I'm not saying I'm not gonna, but my thought process is kind of recover our stuff and then sue the shit out of them, pretty much. Even if I end up paying the full price, paying the $8,500 on top of the $3,500 they've already got from us, and then go after them and basically try to, after we have our stuff delivered, then go after them and basically try to get a large percentage of that back. I'm actually trying to negotiate with them a little bit on that, when they said like 4,200, and they'll release our storage, put in my name so that I can come down there and get our stuff myself. I'm even trying to negotiate that. Like when the other day I had a message. Actually, yesterday, I had an email from the Attorney General. He had gotten a response from Starline Van Lines, and basically, they tried to touch on a few points. Well, like, first of all, Mr. Blodgett signed and agreed to these terms, and so the only reason why his belongings are not being delivered yet is because he hasn't fulfilled his part of the agreement. And and as far as the size of the truck, we've provided video documentation showing the dimensions of the truck, and it actually has like a 3,000 cubic foot volume. And Mr. Blodgett had a lot more stuff than what was itemized before, or prior to that date, and that's why the estimate increased as much as it did. But whether it happened in the middle of the move or not, he agreed to blah blah blah. And I'm reading this going, okay, interesting, because they're like, oh, well, yeah, it happened in the middle of the move, but he still signed and agreed to it. I'm like, yeah, but legally, here's one important piece that I want people to take away from this, especially if you're looking at future moves. One, obviously, like I've said, don't get an estimate over the phone. Like I just talked to United Van Lines earlier because I'm trying to kind of look at my options if I am to go down there and get my stuff myself. I'm looking to see if, hey, I wonder if there's a moving company that won't charge me that much if all I'm having to do is basically load our stuff from wherever it's stored and bring it basically to our house. Like not charge us a full-on move because they're not going to have to like take stuff apart. I mean, they could probably help us put stuff back together if they want, but at least mainly getting the stuff here is what we care about. Then we could be like, all right, well, we don't have parts for this piece, or we need screws for this because the Planet Movers lost them. I'm not too worried about that part. Once we get the stuff out here, we can worry about that. But it's one of the things I'm sure that at that point, I'm sure my wife might be stressed and be like, well, now we have our stuff, but we can't put it together. I'm like, yeah, but we got to think of the positive. Like, we actually have our stuff here. Like, we're here, we got it, It's always fun when we got one car trying to let me over, and I got another car taking that big gap and cutting over instead of letting me have that room that I was supposed to be able to get over. But it's like, all right, hey, you're a dick. And then he cuts over 4 lanes. Like, oh wow, you're really a dick. All right. But so lost my train of thought for a second. So basically, after reading all this message that that the Attorney General received, as he anything he gets from them, he sends my way. Basically, then at the bottom of his message, he basically said, like, if there's anything you want to respond to, definitely respond back, and I will forward your responses to them, and we'll continue working on helping you mediate this. I'm like, so basically, I email back, thank you for your message. As mentioned before, I really appreciate your mediating for us, helping with the situation. I know they can't represent us, but at least he can go back and forth with the company. And, Starline continues to say, as we've said before, we are not holding their stuff hostage. We really want this to come to some kind of resolution, and we're trying to advocate for you, blah blah blah. And so I emailed back, basically, thank you for your continuing to mediate for us. We really appreciate it. And I said to touch on a few of their points, I was like, and I did a Google search, because they argue that, like, a 30, basically their own words on their message to the Attorney General. Well, a 26-foot truck only has 1,600, 1,700 cubic feet of volume, but a 30-foot truck has 3,000 cubic feet of volume. And I'm like, how do you figure that? Like, they're basically saying that a 30-foot truck is double the cubic feet. of a 26-foot truck. I'm like, that's 4-foot difference. But somehow, it's all around. It's a longer and bigger truck. I'm like, no, that's not how moving trucks work. Like, it might be longer, but it's not taller and wider. It's not, you don't gain a overall bigger area of room. Like that's not, And so I did a Google search. I'm like, how many more cubic feet does a 30-foot truck have compared to a 26-foot truck? And basically, the result was roughly about 300 or 400 more cubic foot volume-wise. So I took a screen, and it even said like a 26-foot truck roughly is about 1,600-ish, 1,700 cubic feet, and a 30-foot truck is roughly about 2,000. Starline and Planet Movers are claiming that a 30-foot truck has 3,000 whatever cubic foot of volume that it had, but that a truck 4 feet shorter has like half that. How does that make sense? And so, like, when I emailed back to the Attorney General, I was like, so they claim that their truck was, I said, if it was in fact 30 foot, like what they claim, I was like, I'm including a screenshot of what I found showing the volume of a 26-foot truck compared to the volume of a 30-foot truck, and like how many extra cubic feet a 30-foot has compared to a 26. I said, we're looking at maybe 400 cubic feet. I was like, we didn't have double the initial estimate like they claimed. We were loaded only halfway of that 30-foot truck, which meant we were at 15 foot. They said we should have been loaded to 26 foot and then been given an increase in the estimate based on the extra couple feet of room, the cubic feet or whatever that was for the extra 300 or 400 feet. But not, half a truck, and then your amount doubled because you had so much stuff that it was only, So yes, I signed stuff during the process because I was kind of like, he kept handing, like, every so often, hey, I need you to sign this stuff. It's an updated inventory. I'm just, like every as we're loading, I'm updating the inventory. I need you to fill this out, blah blah blah. I don't know how many times I filled whatever out and signed it. I had to do pickup location, delivery location, name, phone number, email address, blah blah blah, whatever. And it's like, why? Like, this is a lot. And then of course they have the final one. It says like 12,400. You have like this many cubic feet of stuff, and like there's no way we have that much stuff. There's no way. Because like I went through, especially because we used one truck. That's all we filled up one truck. That they then took to storage and then said that it was like 3,000 cubic feet or whatever. And then we, we had to pay $4,200 in order for them to even leave Tennessee with it, and then $4,200 on delivery. And of course, it's been a big fight back and forth. They're like, well, we've provided all the information back to you that you've requested. Like, this is ridiculous. And like, we're not going to keep going back and forth. I'm like, well, then I'm going to basically just take you to court. I'm going to file charges against you for theft. I'm going to report you to the Better Business Bureau, to the FMCSA. Already got the Attorney General involved, obviously, but I've got like all the emails. So part of why the inspiration for this week's topic is if you're going through some kind of situation like this that could eventually probably end up in a court. It's like I was talking to another mover the other day. I don't know if it was before the last Real Talk Tuesday episode. Might have been. I might have mentioned it on that episode. I'm not sure. But I reached out, was kind of like getting estimates. And this guy that I talked to, he was like, he said he'd been in the industry for 25 to 30 years. He'd asked, like, are you moving from a house or an apartment? That's kind of where I said, well, a funny story about that is it's technically an apartment, but I said, it's actually, our stuff is in storage because of such and such, and I kind of gave him I started giving him a little story about everything that's going on. He's like, oh crap, oh man, I already know where this is going. I've come across this quite a few times already, because summertime is a really bad time for dealing with companies like this that pop up out of nowhere, because they pop up over the summer, and he's like, do you have the invoice or the bill or whatever, the BOL or invoice or whatever? I said, I have a couple of them. I said, I have the original one that I agreed to. It was like $7,500, then $2,000 on pickup, $2,000 on delivery, and then I have the updated ones that they say that we owe, and yet I have all the communication that I've done with them, arguing the information, the accuracy of the information, and so he gave me his email and basically was like, forward me what you have. I'm going to talk to my boss, and I'm going to ask his advice to find out what he suggests. Maybe we can help you with this. I was, all right, cool. I appreciate it. I'll take any help I can get. I forwarded the stuff to him, and of course he's hold on, let me talk to my boss really quick. Hold on, I'll be right back. He comes back and he's like, so question is, did you sign anything during the about the increase or whatever? I said, yeah, I signed a few things because but it happened in the middle of the process. Like after they'd been there and our stuff was half loaded, or the truck was half loaded, they stopped and told us that was all the room that we were allotted. And then in order to use the rest of the truck, it was going to be like double our initial, not quite double, but it's going to go from 7,500 to 12,500. And he was like, well, unfortunately, because you signed stuff, you're kind of limited on your options. What you can do legally right now as far as trying to force them to give you your stuff back. But he goes, but after you get your stuff back, you do have a legal case against them, because legally that should have happened before any of your stuff was loaded. I said, yeah, that's what I heard. Your estimate can increase, but what should happen is they should walk through and basically tell you, yeah, you actually have more stuff than what was initially estimated. Your total amount is actually going to be such and such at the beginning, before you even load your stuff, so that way you can say, oh, well, I can't afford that, or okay, cool, yeah, that works, I can do that. This happened with us. We're getting loaded, thinking okay, cool, we're getting loaded, we're getting out of here, and then the truck's half loaded. He calls me out there like, yeah, that's actually that's all your room you're allotted. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's all the room you're allotted. I'm like, sir, we're supposed to get a 26-foot full truck. Oh, well, this is 30 foot or whatever, and it's longer, and that's why it's halfway loaded, because that's just it's longer, and so that's why it's it's a higher, much bigger cubic foot volume, blah blah blah. You basically throwing a lot of terms at me. And I'd been up all day. We waited for them quite a bit of they're supposed to be there between 10 and 2. They got there 7:45, and then it's 12:30 at night after they've been there for 5 hours already, and they're like, well, yeah, arguing this with me, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Your truck's half loaded. Why is it half loaded? It's not at the 26-foot mark. Why? What is? Oh no, just this and that, blah blah blah. I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. But I was like, okay, and of course I'd asked the driver at that point, and I said, hey, so I don't suppose that if I were to say, hey, go ahead, just offload our stuff, we're gonna figure something else out, that would you guys still charge for that? He goes, yeah, it would, because that's labor. We'd still have to charge you, because that's still us having to do work or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but if I'm not able to afford you guys, I should be able to terminate the agreement right now and basically say I can't pay you that amount. I'm just gonna take my stuff, take my business elsewhere, and try to get my stuff myself. But it was I was kind of up against the wall, pretty much. So, but with the way things are currently, dealing with them, I have a shit ton of emails. I have the documentation from the Attorney General that the Planet Movers and Starlight have provided to them, and then of course I've sent my responses to the Attorney General about the fact that their numbers with the truck are drastically inflated. That 26-foot truck is only like 300 or 400 cubic foot difference from a 30-foot truck. And then basically, like, if they're charging me extra, it should be based off 400 cubic feet, not like the extra like $5 grand that they're trying to charge me. And so it's like any situation, whether it's something like this where you're dealing with a move, or you're dealing with something else, it's like a situation that you're trying to take care of, try to figure out. Document everything, like record phone calls if you can, keep copies of emails, keep receipts, notate who you talk to, the names, phone numbers, whatever, and email addresses, and it's like, and then have all this, just keep it all just keep it all together, so that way, should the time come, if you're like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and, file this court case, you have a big old binder full of conversations you had, things that were either said that you actually have a documentation on, like, since I have an email saying, like, Mr. Blodgett, let's resolve this, we'll give you 50% off, so $4,200 USD, and we'll release it, and you can come down and pick it up. And I'm like, well, if I'm picking it up and doing 99% of the work, I'll give you $1,000. I'm trying to basically, the guy I talked to with the other moving company, he was like, just continue to try to negotiate with them. He's like, they'll settle with you because they don't want to, like, they need that storage space for other customers, and so they're subtle with you. They also don't want to get reported, have too many negative reports, because then they'll get shut down. So just keep trying to negotiate with them. Just keep, offer about $2,500. So when I replied back to the Attorney General, that was part of what I was like, look, like, if what they need was, I was like, they need to come down from the 4,200. I was like, if we're doing 99% of the work, if we're back, we're coming back. So I hope that didn't come through, but if you guys heard that, I had a call coming through, but a little sound wave on the recording app spiked, so you guys probably heard that. Like a little, either a or a doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. That's what I was hearing on my Bluetooth. So apologies about that, if but gotta love getting a phone call while you're trying to actually, like, do a recording. But so I had said basically that they need to come down from the 4,200. That I think that maybe 1,500 would be more realistic, more reasonable dollar amount, since we'd have to get our own truck, we'd have to come down there and load it ourselves, and then bring it up here, and we're probably not going to have like pieces of everything, or we're not going to be able to, we're going to have to basically figure out how to get everything assembled. So I was like, 1,500 for us to come down and get it makes more sense. Or if we're having it delivered, I said that they need to come down from the 8,500 that they expect for full delivery. It's interesting, so like the screenshots, basically of the cubic volume differences from what the facts say versus what Starline and Planet Movers are claiming. Like, oh, a 30-foot truck is this like 3,000 cubic feet, and 26-foot truck is only 1,600. No. It was funny. I was kind of getting a kick out of the conversation with the mover that I'm forwarding the other stuff to get like just advice, whatever, since he's been in the business and he's dealt with this a lot. So he's giving me advice or whatever. But I was some of the information I was telling him about while I was on the phone. I was like, yeah, they said their truck was 30 foot and there was 3,000 cubic foot volume, and that 26-foot truck was only 1,600. He's like, that doesn't make any sense. He goes, it was probably a 26-foot truck. It probably wasn't 30 foot. He goes, we have 28-foot trucks here, but it was probably a 26. you know, and it's like, even with that, like, you probably only used one 26-foot truck, and so their numbers just don't make sense. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. You know, that's kind of what we're thinking. He's like, so based on that fact and all the documentation you have a case. Like, you can literally, you can't take them to court, but I understand you wanting to wait until you get your stuff before you pursue that. I said, yeah, we have important things that mean a lot to us that have been in the family for a while that we don't really want to lose, so I'm kind of holding off on that. But I was thinking earlier as I was coming back up from my Coffeeville run, that maybe while I'm off over the weekend, after I do the couple of days that, because I'm, you know, right now I'm not on a dedicated, I've got 3 days that I run, and then maybe have something on the 4th or 5th day, but I guess that opens me up to, I could probably, if I could figure out the financials, I could take time off to go ahead and rent a truck and go down there and try to actually, like, resolve this, you know. But over the weekend, I thought maybe I would get on my computer and just start printing out all the communication, all the different emails, you know, actually start building a folder, call it the legal case against Starline and Planet Movers folder, and you know, just basically, you know, almost being like my own attorney, like basically compiling a bunch of evidence. And that way, because I think when you take somebody to small claims court, you don't need an attorney. Like, you literally just, you present all your stuff to the judge. Of course, the other side presents whatever they have. And, you know, then I guess the judge decides either way. And it's like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure, based on the fact that, like, I have a witness, you know, my daughter, having been there, can testify for me, saying that things were changed in the middle of the process. Versus, like, if it was going to be more the estimate, they should have said something before they even loaded the truck at all, because they showed up, I walked around with them, the guy was like, yeah, this is good, we can get all this. 3 or 4 hours tops. 5 hours later, oh, halfway loaded, that's all you get, sir. Like, yeah, but you haven't even touched the upstairs. There's still the kitchen, still the washer and dryer, still the grill. Like, sir, you said you were going to get everything. Well, unfortunately, that's all the space you get right there. Like, I mean, we can load the whole truck, but we got to give you a new estimate, and you know, like well, how much are we talking? Yeah, $12,500 roughly. And like, it was interesting. I would get on speakerphone with my wife, and like literally, like, as I'm going back and forth with the guy, one of the movers, with her on speakerphone, and she is screaming at him on the phone. I mean, not gonna lie, there was a part of me that I felt bad for him because of how much she was going off at him, but I was laughing inside at the same time. Because I was like, she's a redhead, she's fiery. Look, dude, this is what you get. Like, sorry, not sorry, you know? Like my wife didn't take no shit, you know? So, of course, I'm not gonna lie, there's part of me, like, with the way things went down at the end when they finally left, I kind of wonder if maybe things got pretty bad at the end because of my wife literally tearing them a new one. So then all of a sudden it's like, well, we want $4,000 now for us to take off. And I'm like, I was trying to be nice at the beginning, you know, at the very beginning, but then when the price jumped by $5,000, suddenly I was like, look, like, I can't do this. Like, I understand that, you know, extra space, blah, blah, blah. You know, supposedly we only had half your truck because supposedly it's double the size of a truck that's 4 foot shorter than yours. But, you know, so the important thing to take away is documentation. Keep all communication, keep all receipts. If any offer was made for settlement or whatever, especially if it was through like email where you actually have it documented, keep that, print it, you know. Thankfully, emails have dates on them, so you can actually show when it was received. And then just keep, because that's why that's why the last episode was about be a squeaky wheel, because yeah, they may have my signature, and yeah, technically according to their paperwork, I may have agreed to their charges, but then And it all ended, and basically, like, they told us when they left, yeah, we'll be there in 48 hours. And then they never showed up, and then we're like, no, you got to pay the $8,500 for us to come out there. Like, you gotta fulfill your end of the agreement. I'm like, yeah, but I need proof of the truck size. And they're like, well, here's a video that we're with the line drawn on the video, showing that it's 30 foot. I'm like, that's not official. Like, if I take that before a judge, that's not official documentation showing the dimensions of the truck. They can claim, well, all logistics companies, that's how they do it. Like, no. Pretty sure if it's an official truck, like U-Haul, we're in a U-Haul, and they have little stickers that say, like, this truck is this tall, the cargo area is this long and this wide, or this, it has dimensions on it. Their truck had nothing. And it's like, and then they claim, well, you can actually get trucks that are bigger than 26 foot at auction. You can get 30-foot trucks at auction. That's totally possible. Like, we had a 30-foot truck, and I'm like, okay, well, when I told that to the mover I was talking to on a Friday, or not Friday, but a couple days back, he was like, well, yeah, but they can buy a truck, but then, like, if it's their company's truck, then technically you would think the company information would be on that truck, like their name on the side of it, and stuff like that. So yeah, it was blank. It was the blank white truck that happened to have a little bitty sticker up the front that said Penske on the hood or whatever. That's kind of the only reason why I knew it was a Penske truck, and why, like, I started with Penske first. I was trying to research, try to say, like, is it even possible to rent a 30-foot truck? And everything online's like, no, the biggest truck you can get is 26 foot. After that, it's a semi, and even the mover I talked to a couple days back, yeah, he was like, yeah, that's like 26 foot, and then you go on to the tractor trailers. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought too, but they're claiming, they swear up and down, it's a 30-foot truck, it's like double the cubic feet of what I'm supposed to have. He goes, but that doesn't make sense, you're only 4 foot difference. I'm like, exactly, I'm trying to argue that. They're like, well, no, sir, we showed you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, documenting everything, I keep telling my kids, I was like, I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall in this fight, and they're like, well, he signed and agreed, like he owes this much money for us to do. I was like, okay, well, then I'm documenting everything that I'm arguing with you, that the points I'm making and your responses, and if we pay you to get our stuff, we're then going to come after you to basically get that money back from you. I thought it would be really cool to actually get, like, a cashier's check, pay him in person, get our stuff, and once we're loaded, we leave. It's like I call the bank and tell them put a stop on that cashier's check, because I've heard you can actually, like, you can put a stop on it, or whatever, as long as the check has not been deposited or cashed or whatever. And so it's like, basically cash, like, we put a stop on it that day, and then they go to cash it, like, we're long gone, and the check doesn't go through. Well, Mr. Blodgett, what the hell, man? You paid a check of $4,200, but the check didn't clear. Oh yeah, well, we'll see you in court. Like, maybe we'll settle for $1,000. Like, we'll give you $1,000 to settle this out of court, but otherwise we'll see you in court. Like, I'm not signing anything else that you guys put in front of me. I'm not doing any of that. Nope. So, fun times, guys, fun times. But if you're new to this show and you have not gotten involved in any of the Raw Chat episodes, oh man, we have some good ones. You guys really should tune into them. The last one that had we had Janelle and Miles also on there with me and Goldberg or whatever. It was a pretty good one. Like, I listened to and for those of you who don't know, I actually listen to my own episodes once they post, because that's kind of my way of, like, I kind of want to hear it, make sure that everything came out okay and stuff. I mean, yeah, I could technically listen to it before I even upload it to check it that way, but I'm like, yeah, but what's the fun of that? Like, I want to be like, hey, cool, it posted, and I log on to Spotify or whatever, and I listen to the episode. But so listening to that that last Raw Chat episode, because it was funny because, you know, Goldberg, you know, Dave, he had a connection issue with his iPhone. He's trying to blame it on us, you know, like, you know, you fucking Android users. I think, no, like, we could, like, me and Janelle, I could hear her fine, she heard me fine, like, literally, Dave was like, hello, and me and Janelle were like, hello, like, we're here, and, you know, and he's like, can you hear me? And me and Janelle were like, yeah, we hear you, can you hear us? I'm like, I guess you can. She's like, I guess not. You know, and Janelle's giving him crap, like, well, if you didn't have a fruit for a phone. But then at one point, I guess Miles had called Janelle, and then she put him in the call, and so he joined the call, and I guess me and Dave didn't catch it. So at later on in the Raw Chat conversation, whatever, I kept thinking that sounds like Miles, but I don't think he's on here. And so, yeah, figure getting close to my exit, so I'm gonna slow down and get behind this truck. But I was like, yeah, I don't think Miles isn't here. I don't know. It sounds like Miles. And then at one point, Dave even was like, when the hell did Miles get out here? And Janelle was like, I mean, he's been out here for a minute. Like, I introduced him, or, you know, I did the intro. I'm like, so listen, it was funny listening to that episode. I mean, it took me technically, I did it last night and then the night before, or over the last two shifts, I did like half of it Wednesday or Tuesday night when I worked, and the other half last night. But listening to that, I caught it where at one point, you know, Janelle was like, and speaking of, can you hear me now? Miles! And, you know, it's funny, when hearing that, I heard me and Dave were both like, hey! But, you know, I guess it didn't, like, we didn't register with us. And Miles wasn't really saying too much. He was pretty quiet. So, then later on, when both me and Dave were like, is Miles here? Like, we were talking about it last night for one of the, we have another Raw Chat recording for you. But, I was kind of laughing. I was like, so, Janelle, like, I caught where you said, like, you know, speaking of, can you hear me now? Miles! And she was like, yeah, see, I knew I introduced him. I was like, yeah, but Dave and I, like, we didn't catch it. Like, it didn't, I totally don't remember that. And Dave was like, yeah, I didn't even catch that. So, those episodes, that segment, literally, I do not edit those at all. I literally, you know, it's kind of a deliberate thing. Goldberg, literally, Dave calls me, and you know, as soon as I get connected, literally, it's like, yeah, I accept the call, then I hit the button, and literally, that's why you hear at the beginning, like, this call is being recorded. Because legally, you have to notify the participants, obviously, that the call's being recorded, but Dave and I it's planned, because we talked about it for a while about, hey, man, some of these conversations would be awesome as podcast episodes. So now, that's what I'm doing, you know, so, but you should definitely check it out. Some of them can get pretty long, but usually they're pretty entertaining, you know. And then eventually, whenever I get around to it, I will get back into the Storytime Friday episodes. Things have been kind of, obviously, chaos with trying to fight to get an actual decent deal, a decent settlement with with the moving company, trying to get our stuff back without paying another $8,500. Or, you know, like I said, if I do, which if I could come up with the money to do it, I would totally just say, you know what, let's do it. And then after we have our stuff, then all of a sudden we take it to court and we file all sorts of negative reports online. I thought about doing like YouTube videos, doing videos on TikTok and Facebook, and you know, maybe even have between me and my wife, maybe doing Reddit posts specifically mentioning any information I have about the companies, like Starline Van Life, Planet Movers, basically just trying to drag their name as much through the mud as I can, because I don't want anyone else to get, for lack of a better word, scammed by these two companies. Because basically that's what happened. Like, I thought, hey, cool, we're having professional movers, you know, move us, and then it went from like, hey, I paid the deposit, we're good, whatever, to all of a sudden, oh shit, like you guys want another like $5,000. Like, how are we gonna get to Missouri if I pay everything we have to you guys? Then we can't even drive ourselves out there. So, important thing: documents. Document everything. I actually given them my Google Voice number to Starline and said, like, any future calls, I want you guys to call this number because I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm going to record all future conversations. They haven't called me since. It's all been emails, and I'm like, emails work. That's still documentation. You know, that shows it came from you guys. It shows what date it was sent, and what date it was received, and who it was that was messaging me, and you know, and I literally, I don't even know. I probably have at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen or more. I was gonna say dozens, but I don't know if I have that many conversations back and forth. Couple a week at least, so probably like 15 to 20 actual like documented messages back and forth. So I'm trying to do what I can, you know, try to continue to argue back and forth, continue trying to fight for basically to get our stuff back. And I literally, and one of the other things too, not just document, but don't back down. And whoever you're fighting with, make sure to let them know that you're not going to back down, that you're not going to go away. Because I think a lot of situations like what we're currently dealing with, I think they either hope that you're either going to pay that insane amount they're trying to charge you, or that you're going to just go away, and they can basically just end up like in the end go through your stuff and, you know, basically. Sorry about that. Another call coming through. I think I got to check my settings on this app too. And I think, because I know I was recording from my computer for a while, but I think when I was recording with this, I think I have the option to set it where it'll put calls on Do Not Disturb. You know, when I'm on here. So, but basically, not just document, but, you know, let them know that you're not going anywhere. One of my emails to Starline, I basically said, like, we're not going away. Like, we have family heirloom stuff. We have stuff that's been in the family for a long time. We're not gonna just roll over and be screwed. Like, we're gonna keep fighting you on this. Like, if we don't get our stuff back, then you're gonna face even a bigger court battle, because we're gonna come after you probably for a lot more than what you want to get from us. Instead of just the 8,500, we're gonna come after you for probably like 40 or 50,000. I don't know. We're throwing a random number out there because I'm not. I know from what my wife said, just the kitchen stuff alone that's in store, that's with the movers, is like at least 6,000 because of like appliances and whatnot. So be aggressive. Don't back down. Keep fighting with it. Tell them, like, look, like I can't. I've even said I can't pay you the $8,500. Like, I had to pay a lot to rent furniture and stuff once this all hit the fan. You know, so because of that, I don't have the money to pay you anymore. And so we need to figure this out. Like, part of this, like, if you guys had delivered when you guys said you're gonna deliver, then you guys probably would have gotten money from us. But now it's like I'm working again. Money's already been paid out to refurnish the house, like, you know, so we didn't have anything like bedroom sets, anything from the kitchen, nothing, like the couches, and nothing. I mean, we literally had to go get couches from like thrift stores and get accounts with Rent-A-Center and go about it that way. So it's like, look, like we need to figure this, especially if I'm gonna go down there and pick up my stuff myself out of Tennessee. When they brought it here, it's a different story. But it's in Tennessee. If I have to come all the way back there to do their job for them, I shouldn't have to pay them anything, let alone like even a small amount, like $1,000. But I'm offering something. Like, hey, I'll pay $1,500. You know, but $4,200 is pretty high for me coming down to get my own stuff. I don't give a crap about materials and labor. Like, that's not my, that's not my issue. Like, I'll pay you $1,500 for me to come down there and get it. So, anyway, guys, on that note, I will let you guys go. But as always, I appreciate you being here every week. There will be another Raw chat after this episode, of course. Stay tuned. But you know what I always say? Keep pushing forward. Keep believing. Believe you can. Believe you will. And you're already halfway there. And then you just have to go out there and do it. But we only fail if we quit and give up and walk away. So as long as we continue to get back up, keep fighting. Even when it doesn't look like you won, or it doesn't look like maybe you don't think you're gonna win, maybe you're feeling hopeless, just keep fighting. You know, like I feel hopeless a lot with this situation, and like I told my kids, I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall. I feel like but I keep saying, look, like we're gonna get our stuff back. I don't know how we're gonna get our stuff back. I don't know when we're gonna get our stuff back, or how much we're gonna have to pay to get our stuff back, or like what it's going to look like if we have, if we end up in court fighting these people to try to either basically get a refund of the bulk of what we paid them. I don't know what any of that's going to be like. But it's like just basically try to do the best I can. So that's all you can do. As long as you don't give up, you haven't lost. No matter what it is, whether it's a legal fight or if you're working on let's say you have some goals you're working on, trying to some dreams that you're trying to achieve that maybe others in your life, maybe they don't like support, or maybe they don't believe it's possible. Like, why are you trying to do that? Like, come on, man, just go work a job and just go work a job, work your way up from the ground floor. This is where I would say, like, if there's anybody out there, if you are trying to look for something like that could help you financially, but passively, without having to basically build a team, recruit, whatever, I put the link in the show notes every week. I haven't mentioned it on here for a little bit, but I have a Bitcoin mining op that I have been a part of for a little bit. I've gone from 30 cents a day so far in earnings to about $3 a day, and literally it just once you get the units or the shares or whatever, they don't stop. Like, it's constantly mining. They take care of everything, and they don't stop. Like, you're gonna keep earning from that 24/7, 365 forever, pretty much. And then I'm using that as I earn more with that. I'm using those earnings to basically get more shares or more full units, and continue to grow that to the point where we'll be at that point where the daily earning will be enough to basically, like, you know what, I don't have to work if I don't want to, but I know I'm a ways off from that. I've noticed as I've added more shares and I'm earning more daily, it's accruing quicker, and it's basically like I think I'm within like 2 days now of being able to add another $100 share. Like, the full units are 1,000, but you can do shares of that for 100. The $100 shares just basically gets you, like, you see about 30 to 40 cents a day actually hitting your Bitcoin wallet in the app or whatever, in your account. So go to Passive Bitcoin 247, the number 2, the number 4, the number 7.com. PassiveBitcoin247.com. There's a couple videos, a bunch of information for you to check out. You can see what it's all about. Again, you can start for as little as $100, and it'll take a long time to build it up from that point if that's what you want to start at. but it's totally doable. You know, once you hit another $100 saved up in there, use that, buy another share. Hey, that's 60 to 70 cents a day, and you know, just keep working it from there. You know, so on that note, guys, you guys have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the upcoming Raw Chat. Hope you guys like it. Try to keep them going for you, just like I'm trying to. Just like I will be getting the Storytime Friday episodes. You know, get those coming back again and stuff. Just trying to figure things out, trying to get things going. Get through the current situation with the movers, which I you know what they say. That saying, like, this too shall pass. So just do what we gotta do, you know. But anybody interested in the passive type stuff, where you can build an income online without having to build a team and basically sit back and watch it grow or whatever, and you know, just slowly build it. Check it out, passivebitcoin247.com. But on that note, I appreciate you guys being here every week. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I wish I had a support link for anybody who wants to financially support the show and basically also at the same time help with this the financial cost of trying to figure out how to get our stuff back. But hey, it's all good. You know, I'll figure it out. I put out a lot of literal fires, like, you know, when I was an Air Force firefighter, as well as put out like these you know, kind of fires, life fires, you know, things that are having to figure out how to take care of this, or how to take care of that, or, you know, and sometimes it takes me a while to figure out, but I've been able to do it. Anytime I put my head, or what is it, set your mind to something, you can figure it out. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So anyway, guys, thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy the Raw Chat, and have a great rest of your week. And I will talk to you next time. Have a good one.